Wonder Murmur, where whispers weave the heart.
Hello, little hearts. A new whisper begins. In a cozy burrow beneath the roots of a great fir tree lived a mother rabbit with her 4 little ones, Mopsy, Flopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Their home was warm, smelling of damp earth and clover, and their days were filled with the simple joys of childhood. But of all the rabbits, Peter was the one whose heart beat with a restlessness all his own. He was a small ball of boundless energy and unquenchable curiosity. And his ears, unlike his siblings, were always twitching towards the forbidden. One crisp morning, as the dew sparkled like 1,000 tiny jewels, Mrs. Rabbit prepared to go to the market. She pulled her shawl tight and fixed a serious look upon her children. "Now, my darlings," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I'm going to town. You may play in the lane, or you may pick blackberries by the stone wall, but under no circumstance are you to go into Farmer McGregor's garden." A shiver of fear ran through Peter's siblings. "Our father, he went there and never came back," Mopsy whispered, her voice a fragile tremor. The memory was a ghost that haunted their family. Peter's father, a brave and daring rabbit, had vanished in that very garden. But where his siblings felt fear, Peter felt a defiant surge of excitement. The forbidden was a song he couldn't help but want to hear. "Yes, Mother," he promised, his voice a picture of obedience. But his little nose twitched with a secret plan. As soon as his mother's cottontail vanished over the hill, the other rabbits scurried to the safety of the blackberry bushes. But Peter's feet led him in a different direction. He was an adventurer, not a berry picker. He scurried through the whispering forest, a path forming in his mind, until he reached a low wooden gate. He felt a thrill of nervous energy as he squeezed under it, his small body shivering with cold and delicious anticipation. Inside, the garden was a paradise. The air smelled of sweet soil and damp green. Peter, his earlier promises forgotten, began to feast. He nibbled on crunchy radishes, so much better than the dry grass of the lane. He munched on juicy lettuce, each bite a crisp whisper of delight. He felt like a king in his own kingdom. Lost in his gluttony, he hopped around a tall bush, and there, the world stood still. The farmer. He was a hulking man in a great brown coat, and his eyes, when they fell on Peter, were as cold as a winter pond. A low growl rumbled in his chest. "A rabbit! A thief!" he bellowed, grabbing his rake. Peter's heart became a frantic drum against his ribs. He ran, not with a playful hop, but with a desperate, lunging sprint. The rake, a giant claw of wood and metal, sliced through the air behind him. His little shoes, which had felt so good just moments before, now felt like lead weights. One flew off near the cabbages. The other got stuck in the dirt by the potato patch. But there was no time to mourn them. He lost his way. The garden, once a paradise, was now a maze of death. He ran into a net, his little buttons catching on the rough twine. Terror gripped him. He kicked and twisted, tears of fear blurring his vision. I'm stuck! I'm stuck!" he cried. Just as the farmer's shadow fell over him, a flock of sparrows, who had been watching, chirped desperately, "Take off your jacket! Hurry, little one, take off your jacket!" Peter, in a moment of sheer panic and desperation, wiggled and struggled until he was able to slip out of his tight blue jacket. He was free, but the farmer was too close. Peter dashed into a nearby shed, a dark, dusty refuge filled with the smells of metal and wood. In his frantic search for a hiding place, he leapt into a watering can, a vessel filled to the brim with icy water. The sudden cold made his teeth chatter. He heard the farmer's heavy footsteps, the thud of his boots against the floor, and the frustrated grumbling as the man searched for him. Peter stayed as still as a statue, holding his breath. But the shock of the cold water had a terrible effect. A tickle, so small at first, grew into an unbearable itch in his nose. And then he sneezed.
Aha!
The farmer roared. Peter scrambled out of the can, dripping and shivering, and ran for his life. The chase was on again, but this time he was too exhausted and disoriented to know which way was home. He ran past a cat whose eyes were fixed on the fish in a pond. He dodged behind a pot and listened to the farmer's furious shouts. With a lucky glimpse, he saw it. The gate. With a final burst of energy, he shot across the garden, squeezed under the gate, and fled home. He collapsed in the dirt, a shivering, soaking mess. His blue jacket and little shoes gone forever. Mrs. Rabbit, her worry turning into a stern disappointment, gave Peter a spoonful of medicine and sent him to bed without any dinner. He had learned a hard lesson, but the memory of the thrill, the adventure, and the forbidden taste of radishes lingered. A few days later, a visitor arrived. It was Benjamin Bunny, Peter's cousin, a creature of boundless courage and an unshakable sense of self. He found Peter in the burrow, looking utterly miserable in his handkerchief. "Peter, what happened to you?" Benjamin asked, his voice a mix of concern and curiosity. Peter, still ashamed, explained his disastrous adventure. "I have good news," Benjamin declared, a mischievous glint in his eye. "The farmer and his wife have gone to town. We can go back and get your clothes." Peter's heart pounded. The memory of the farmer, the rake, the net, and the watering can was still fresh. "I don't know, Benjamin. It's too dangerous." "Nonsense," Benjamin scoffed. "I know the garden better than he does. Besides, we'll be together." Peter, lured by the promise of his lost jacket and the bold courage of his cousin, couldn't resist. Together, they crept back to the garden. The first thing they saw was a scarecrow, and to Peter's mortification, it was wearing his jacket and shoes. He was filled with a mixture of relief and embarrassment. "Don't worry," Benjamin whispered, and with a swift leap, he took the shoes and jacket. They were shrunken and damp from the rain, but they were his again. But Benjamin's bold spirit was not satisfied. "I want some onions," he said, his nose twitching. Peter's nervousness returned. "This isn't safe, Benjamin. We should go." "I've been coming here with Father since I was a kid," Benjamin said, pulling up onions with a confident tug. "It's fine. He knows all the tricks." Peter, though his heart was a flutter of anxiety, followed his cousin deeper into the garden. Benjamin was reckless and unafraid, rolling onions into the now familiar handkerchief. But just as they were ready to leave, a shadow fell over them. It was not the farmer. It was a ginger cat, and her eyes were fixed on them with a predatory glint. "A cat!" Benjamin gasped, his bravado instantly evaporating. They scurried for cover, their only refuge an overturned basket. The cat, seeing them, didn't bother to chase. She simply leapt onto the basket and sat down. The hours passed. The sun climbed high, then began its slow descent. The two rabbits huddled together. The smell of onions, a pungent, tear-inducing torment. Peter's courage, which had been so fragile, completely failed him. He began to cry, silent tears of fear and despair. "This is all my fault," Benjamin whispered, his earlier confidence shattered. "Father will be looking for me. We're going to be here forever." Just as all hope seemed lost, a powerful voice echoed from beyond the garden wall. "Benjamin, Benjamin, where are you?" It was Benjamin's father. The cat looked up, her attention momentarily diverted. In a flash, a large, strong rabbit, Benjamin's father, leaped down from the wall. He did not hesitate. He lunged at the cat, a swift, ferocious kick to her rear. "Out!" he roared. He slammed the greenhouse door shut, locking the terrified cat inside. He then lifted the basket and stared down at his son and nephew, his expression a mix of relief and fury. "You are in great trouble, young man," he said to Benjamin, his voice shaking with anger and worry. "I have taught you better than this." Later that evening, the farmer returned home, bewildered by the chaos in his garden. The scarecrow was stripped of its clothes. The cat was locked in the greenhouse, and there were small footprints everywhere. Back at the burrow, Mrs. Rabbit, seeing her son safe and his clothes recovered, was overcome with relief. "You're home, Peter," she said, her voice filled with a mother's deep love. "And you have your clothes back." But for Peter and Benjamin, the lessons were far from over. Benjamin had learned that even the bravest heart must be tempered with caution. And Peter had learned a new, more profound lesson. That true safety isn't found in obedience or disobedience, but in the shelter of a loving family and the guidance of those who know best. The garden was no longer a place of thrilling secrets, but a powerful memory of what it meant to be brave and what it meant to be home.
Wonder murmur, the story departs, yet the whisper imparts.